Hello and welcome to episode 11 of the Art Department podcast. With me in the studio, Emmanuel Shiu, and myself, Urschel. And today we're going to talk about talent. Talent versus hard work. Is it real? Is it not? I think we've all been in that position where we post some cool artwork and then somebody comments on it on social media, or somebody tells us like, oh, you're so talented. You're so lucky to be able to draw so well. And I think artists in general, and I know for myself, we would actually take offense in that and saying like, oh, are you denouncing all the hard work I put into it? So we want to dig down a little bit into, is talent real? Is it just very rare? And I think we have some interesting opinions and perspective on it. So what do you think? Do you think you're talented?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've heard that many times. And I mean, how many times I actually heard from people who, don't do what you do and say, wow, you're so talented, you can do that.
Exactly.
And then
right.
you can do this and you can do that. And people in our field are saying the same thing. And they're saying, oh, we will never get there. Or no, I'm not as talented. I can't do that.
Even subconsciously, if they use that word, I think they often maybe don't mean the actual definition of talent, but nevertheless, it's an interesting point.
I think talent, a lot of people just mean, sort of out of the box, you're already better.
Exactly.
And you have this thing that nobody can attain. And so, you're talented and I just can't get there. Or, or they think they are talented, or and then they don't need to work hard. I mean, it just depends on where they come from, right?
There's so many connotations in that word talent. I mean, it originally means a natural aptitude or a natural skill that you're gonna have, that you're basically born with it. Right, but there's even more in the whole conversation of like, oh, you're so talented, right? There's many other different things that we can all go through one after the other. I think one very important part of it is that it's kind of like a way out for the person who says it, the person who says, oh, you're so talented, to somebody else, that he puts that skill to something that the other person is born with, and so he kind of says that, okay, I can never attain it, so I don't even need to try hard in the first place, as kind of like a cop out. I think that is not for everyone, but I think it's in there.
I think there's some truth to that for sure, but I mean, for me personally, I grew up thinking there was talent. I grew up thinking there are special skills, I grew up watching people doing sports, and that guy's a genius. How did he even do that? Things like that. Or she, how did she do that? And how did, it was so many different things until I started playing table tennis, is when I really looked into talent.
Damn, table tennis is like life-changing experience for you in every way. Because, that's good.
Because it was one of those things where I had to get better. And I thought, well, I picked the sport that I wanted. And my coach at that time, his name is Sean O'Neill, and he was like, you got to read these books. And all the books talk about talent versus practice.
Right.
Talent, because I was like, well, maybe I'm just not talented, in doing certain things. And he's like, no, read them, see if they make sense to you. If they make sense to you, just apply that. And the basic premise of all these books is the 10,000 hour rule.
Oh yeah, we heard about that.
And it's simple. We'll just explain really basic, 10,000 hours. The premise is that it takes 10,000 hours to become at a professional level, right? Not to just get good at the sport or a skill, but at a professional level, which equals around, 10 years basically. It's 1,000 hours a year, and it'll equal about 10 years.
Okay.
Is when
I was just going to calculate it.
Yeah, no, they're equating it to about 1,000 a year, and that's like almost equivalent to a full-time job.
Right.
And so, and this came out. I mean, I see it with Eric. This guy Erickson.
Oh,
in
right.
1993, right? That's so from your notes.
Yeah.
And then there was another book that was very popular called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell.
Gladwell, yeah.
And then the book I read was called Bounce, which was dealing strictly with table tennis,
Ah, okay.
but using a lot of different
Yeah, yeah.
examples that that are very easy to understand of what it is and how it works. And I think after I read all those things, I just said to myself, you know what? I don't believe that talent is real. Now, this is the rub. Talent is real. So let's say something takes somebody 10 hours to understand. The talented person, I think, it'll take him 5 hours, but it
Right.
still needs 5 hours.
Oh, yeah,
But
yeah.
but the thing is, if you do 10 hours, you'll still understand the thing. You won't understand it any less. It just takes you a little longer.
Right, right.
So I truly believe that because I saw it when I was playing. There were certain things I could pick up really quickly and certain things I didn't. And the things that I didn't, I just kept practicing. And then I finally could get it just as good as the person. But he had already understood the skill with less time. And this is like one of my friends when I was racing was the same thing. I mean, I he would go out and he had an innate ability, not innate, but he would learn to practice that skill, but he would go a lot quicker in understanding how to drive the track. And whereas me, I needed a lot more practice. But in the end, we were at the same place.
Right.
It just took me longer. So
Definitely.
from there, I really learned it's not about just being talented. It's about really practicing and practicing the right way, which we'll talk about. But those things really is like the cornerstone to me now. And it gives me a lot of confidence to know that, right? Because if you know you can do anything you want, it's just a matter of practice. I mean, how many times have you heard interviews with athletes, musicians, artists, anybody in a professional stage? And when they ask, how did you get here? Everybody says practice. Why is that? Nobody says, hey, I'm just talented.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just born like this, man. It's not that. And I
But
think it's important for people to know that. Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah. But I think, I mean, it's I keep thinking about it, right? And there's a lot of discussion about this topic and a lot of research done into this topic, because I think everybody wants to kind of find the talent gene or whatever that makes people into geniuses or whatever, right? But like you said, if you ask anybody who's good at anything or exceptionally good, they would never attribute it to talent. But I nevertheless wonder if there is something like that. So, I mean, believing in talent is something that I think everybody grows up with. And I think it's just purely based on the fact that there are some people who are so exceptionally good at something that like we feel like we can never reach that. And there's something that these people have that I don't have, so I don't need to try hard. And I mean, that was one of the main reasons why it took me, I think, very long to get into this industry, because I always, even a lot later on, believed that all these people are talented. Like I was doing the DVDs from like James Klein doing matte painting or whatever, and I'm like, I tried for a bit, and then I said, okay, I can't do this. These people have some talent, some artistic talent. They can draw, they can paint. I can none of those, and therefore I'm not talented enough to work in this industry. And it took me a long while to get over that. And actually, even when I started going down this path and going to FCD, I still believed in talent. It's just that I was a bit older and I didn't care anymore. I was like, I got to try it regardless, right? Because I also applied for photography school when I was out of high school, and I didn't get in because, of course, I didn't try very hard. Again, I was believing that good photographers have that eye, they're talented, they can do something. But the thing is, right, there was that little bit of confidence I had that I was a little better at visualizing things than my friends in high school. I was a bit better in art class than the rest. But I thought that was just that sliver of talent that I was given, that others were not, right? Because I didn't have artist parents. I didn't have a lot of exposure to this kind of stuff. So, which is kind of segueing into something I want to talk about later. But so that's how I grew up. That's what I believed until not so long ago. I mean, eventually, I also believe more in hard work and the effort and dedication and practice to make somebody good. But I still wonder what it really is behind the word talent, and what do we associate with talent, because it's not God given, but there is something that I don't know if it's genetic, I don't know if it's something else, right? I mean, to go into a concrete example, right? Let's maybe talk a bit about sports, and I think you had a very interesting note here. If expertise can be attributed to something maybe genetic or somewhere where you are, and you wrote Kenya, I'm assuming you talk about the long distance runners.
Yes.
Exactly.
So that was one of the examples in the book Bounces. There is a reason why all those long distance runners that were world record breakers came from the same village.
Exactly, right? So they have, but then I mean, just a little bit of background, right? So pretty much all the famous marathon runners are coming from Kenya, and that even from within Kenya, only from a certain area, right, or even a certain village, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe now it has become kind of an expectation, and they are trying to scout and find particular people from that area because they know they're located there. But so we need to maybe kind of go a bit further back into when these people first appeared on the playing field in the Olympics or other competitions. Like, when did it happen that these people suddenly came up, and what is it about their physiology, about their genetics maybe, or even their environment that made them so exceptionally good, right? Do you have any? Do you have any examples from that? What the books are talking about for these people, or?
Well, I mean, a lot of it is saying that yes, they are coming from certain places, and a big reason is that they have they're doing the thing that they need to do in order to get good at that thing. So maybe they are running in that case, and they're going from place to place. There's no cars, and their physiology is already it has an advantage because they are very slim, and things like that. But that book was there to debunk the fact that, well, yes, there's that person, but and they all support each other, right? Another example was like it was the guy who wrote it is like an all England table tennis player, like Olympian, and he was they had a bunch of people on that street who were Olympians, and it's like there is very interesting correlations, but in the end, I mean, I feel like, yes, there are genetics come into play with this, and this applies to music, sports, arts, anything. But the genetics, I feel like it's not something that's like you either born with something extra. Everybody has some extra special skills that other people don't have. But that doesn't mean they can't attain it. It just means that they are born with maybe some their better cognitive skills, or some people are more logical.
Right.
It's a part personality and just being a human being. And so for me, I think if you can tap into the thing that you really love, and that's something that naturally comes to you, then great. Some people, they don't know how to tap into that until later on in their lives.
Right.
But I think everybody has some things, so it's not like there's one person who has nothing, and one person has all this stuff. But I think for me, I would say that I got lucky to be put into an art high school.
Right.
And from the art high school, I got a good teacher that taught me photography, right? And then I from ninth grade, basically, that's a really early start, in an art, So the the thing is, but if I didn't go crazy loving it and do it like I was in the dark room at 2 in the morning, there's a like there was that effort of shooting roll after roll.
Right.
Whereas my classmates, I mean, I'll tell you, some of my classmates were like, I'm like, that's really a good shot. Like, I don't know what about it, but this is a really good shot. I was like, I really love that. How did they get that like that? And it was just in there, like, I would be shooting 20 rolls, they're shooting one roll, and they're fine. They got that shot, and I was like, oh my god! I went out and shot again and again and again until I got, I think I understand it now, and I shot again. And why I'm saying that is because you can get there. Yes, that person has a natural way of seeing things that you like, right? I mean, everything is subjective. I mean, unless you're doing math, right? But in terms of this is arts, and but for me, I had to compensate that just by I had to shoot roll after roll.
Right. Right.
And,
Right.
and don't forget, in those days, it was one roll, 36 exposures. That's it.
Yeah, and then you need
Hey,
to
iPhone.
develop it, and then you need to wait, right? You
Yeah, I
can't
had to
just like check.
develop it. I had to, dry it and then look at it and then print it, all this stuff. So, but I was already sort of privileged, right? In the sense that I was in this art high school,
Right.
whereas you weren't.
Yeah, exactly, right?
And but it took longer, but your passion for it made up for it.
Yeah.
And I think that, the person that was like, did that really good shot, who was the star photographer, guess what they're doing now? Not art related. A lot
Yeah,
of
yeah.
people who have that talent, sometimes that's not actually what they love. They may have an aptitude for it,
Right,
but
right.
it doesn't mean that's what they love.
That's
And
a
some
that's yeah.
people, they have the aptitude and they love it, but they're too they got it too easy, so they're too complacent.
Right.
So they'll say, "Okay, I'm good," and they'll see me in the in the background, kind of go past them, and it's not a competition, right? It's not me better than you. That's not the goal, and I that's one thing I really want to emphasize is that I'm not emphasizing anybody to be better than anybody else. I just wanted you to be the best version of you.
Exactly.
But what I mean by going past means that I started getting shots that I liked, like that other person, right? I really loved her work. I was like, wow, that's really good. I don't know how you did it, but through time and effort, I got to a point where I understood how, right? But it was all through effort, and it's
Right.
not sort of, oh, I'm so talented. It was just like I just said, I really like that shot, the way the lighting, everything, and how am I gonna get there? She just did it naturally. She just goes,
Right.
ah. And sometimes the
I hate those
talent,
people. Yeah.
yeah, but so that's the thing is that you may think that's talent,
Yeah.
but then later
Exactly.
on, a couple years down the line, I asked this person, I say, hey man, that's a really great shot. Why are you not in photography class? Like this year, I think it was my senior year, and she's like, I don't even know how I did that, and honestly, I don't really care.
Interesting. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I don't know if you have stories like that, but that happened to me like so many times. I mean, your story on James Klein, same. I was like, I can't do that. I mean, I was at ILM and I was like looking at all these guys, like that were really good. And I was like, I can't do that. I can't do that. And my stuff looked like crap. Really couldn't do it. But I said, you know what? I want to do it. So I'm going to find every way I can. Maybe I'll do it really slow,
Right.
but I will find the right way to improve. And I just, said, look, I love doing this, so I might as well just keep doing it. And I put more and more time, and it took a long time, and
Right.
things weren't looking good. But ultimately, things started to shape up. But like I said, table tennis really put into me like the fact of this 10,000 hours, it's not just 10,000 hours of you sitting there and drawing a circle.
Exactly.
It's 10,000. Okay, a good example is like, we all drive, and we've all probably driven for 5-10 years.
Yeah.
Easily. Why are most people? Why are they not professional race car drivers? How many times have you driven somewhere where you left and then you got to your destination and kind of go, how did I get here? I mean, how many times does that happen? Because that's happened to everybody, because you're so into your thoughts. You could be singing in the car, or you could be just thinking your own thoughts. And you get there and you go, how the hell did I get here? Like, remember the fact of driving here. Like, and the reason is because you're on automatic pilot. Right? And when you're on automatic pilot, you are not learning.
Right?
You're on automatic pilot. So this is the same for art. If you practice and you're on automatic pilot, that time that you spent practicing, I would say that it's not very useful.
Yeah, it's almost wasted,
when you
right?
practice, you have to be very deliberate. What am I learning here? What am I hoping to achieve in this session? And really, you should be practicing. Like, if you're practicing like an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, people are like, oh, that's nothing. I practice 8 hours. No, if you practice true 2 hours, 3 hours, you should be fried. Because you're really concentrating on, I'm learning this. I have a big problem with people doing like studies, and they say, I did study. I'm like, but you didn't learn. And it's because you weren't deliberate when you started the practice. Say, hey, I really want to work on this color. Why? Why do they use these colors? Why are the shadows like this? Why the highlights? That's it. That's all I'm going to work. And I feel like a lot of times people don't concentrate on deliberately learning something. How do you feel about that?
Deliberate learning. It's what I should do more often. It's very true, but I kind of like, my experience was a bit different, I think, especially when I went through FCD. Yeah, I was just going to talk about that.
Oh yeah, tell us.
I think there was so the day was usually divided up into a lesson in the morning. So I think from like 10 to 1, and sometimes even until after lunch, if it was a longer lesson, until maybe like 3 p.m. They would give us like a lesson, right? And they would show us what we need to learn and go through our homework and everything. So there was more like input, even though I was mostly sleeping, right? And then the rest of the day, from whenever the class finishes until as late as you needed to stay up to finish the assignments for the next day, and of course all day on the weekend, was kind of the application of that. But like, it was so much homework that you basically just needed to, like, you had to apply and apply and apply and apply, and you were continuously like working. That I'm really not sure how much of that, like, you would spend like 12 hours a day, I don't know, applying. How much of that would count as deliberate practice and productive practice? Because, I mean, once you repeat that over a couple of weeks and a couple of months, you get really, really tired out, and your brain is kind of at the edge of shutting down. And I'm wondering how that factors into what you just said, because at the end of the day, you cannot deny the improvement you make through pure repetition and brute force. There's a big difference, because I mean, I can shit on that approach as much as I want to, right? But the fact is that when I got into FCD, I couldn't really draw shit. And at the end of it, I had a job at Lucasfilm after 1 year. So I cannot deny that there was...
because you're talented, man.
Yeah, man. But I mean,
how long was FCD first?
1 year.
How long?
1 year.
1 year. So you spent 1 year, and before all that, you had been doing photography. You had done that.
Yeah,
You were
I
doing
was
graphic
working.
design.
Yeah, exactly.
So I submit that it's not that you didn't know how. It was just that you're using, and this is partly of being older. You're using a lot of your past experiences to boost that year, and you made that year count. That's
Probably,
a
yeah.
year of deliberate practice, and that's all. I mean, that 1 year probably equated to more than a year's time of practice, and especially with it being deliberate practice.
Yeah.
And so I would submit that you were at FCD doing very deliberate practice,
Yeah.
and all the skills that you have known from the past are coming to help you. Your photography sense, so your shot making, composition, all that was already there. You just brought it out, right?
Right.
And then people were showing you how to do it. Drawing, honestly, in graphic design, you still have to draw.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not like
Not
great,
pretty,
but you
but
have
yeah.
to. Yeah, so you already knew some of that.
Okay.
So, I wouldn't say that it came out of like nowhere, but
Oh
I
yeah.
would say a big advantage was also being older.
Yeah, that's true.
Because when you're older, you go, okay, this is my one shot, so I'm going to be more efficient. Like when I was playing table tennis, it was like, how do I become more efficient? I mean, I'm 40. I was 40. But it's like, how, if it takes 10 years, how do I get there? So I better practice. Like, I better not waste any training session.
Right.
Right. And you're at FCD. What are you thinking? I better not waste. I mean, I'm spending money and time
To
for
be
this
here, yeah.
education. I better not waste a
Yeah,
minute
yeah,
of it.
yeah. Well, that's
See,
that's
that
good.
thinking really makes you more deliberate than the guy who's like, I'm 20, whatever. I'm just gonna go and have a good time. That's why they don't get where they get, because a lot of times I think they're just really in a chill mode, and they're not really going to go, man, I really want to get better. And some people who really want to get better, sometimes they're stressing out so much they don't realize what they don't realize. And a lot of times it's
Good
being
point.
very specific with what you do.
Right.
Like this session is about X, learn X. And a lot of times it's, and I would read books that also say, you know what, if today's session you feel like, I'll give you a good example. Like if you're doing your backhand and it feels horrible, move on. Do the next exercise and focus on that, because bad habits are also very easy to make. And those things really matter, because deliberate practice means practicing the right thing. You practice the wrong thing and you're drawing the wrong anatomy, you're ingraining that anatomy is like that, and after a while you're gonna have a hard time. Like, it's just the way it is.
So how do you how do you suggest people who are self-learning, like if you self-learn and you don't have anybody to check your progress once in a while, I guess it's very easy to develop these bad habits of doing things
So
wrong
that
a
is
certain
exactly
way.
yeah, that's exactly the reason why I feel like you should learn. You definitely need some kind of person or some kind of feedback along the way saying, hey, mapping it out for you. That's why online courses that are like a school, any kind of school will help you map out something is important. If you're self-taught, you're gonna be frustrated because you're gonna run into a lot of walls,
Right.
and no amount of talent is gonna get you out of that.
Yeah. I mean, you can still probably get over it. You can still get out of your bad habits over time, but I think it's going to take you a lot
Over
longer,
time,
right?
exactly. So sorry. I mean, you can self-taught, not an issue.
Yeah.
Definitely can get there, but it may take you a lot longer.
That's true.
It really may take you a lot longer. And so for a lot of people, I'd say narrow down the skills you need to learn, break them into smaller chunks, and focus on those. If you spend, let's say, okay, I got to get better at thumbnailing. Let's just say thumbnailing, right? That's it. I want to get better at composition and thumbnailing. That's it. You do that. If you just consistently do that every day, 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours. So just do that, though. Don't do 10 million things, because every artist I know is doing 10 million things.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do thumbnailing and I'm gonna do composition. Oh, I'll do some painting. I'll do some drawing here. And in the end, it's like I mean, I don't know how many people play fighting games. Let's say Street Fighter. You have so many characters. I mean, if we just both don't know the game and we come into the game and I'm gonna pick one character to use, and the other person has to use a different character every time. Who do you think is gonna win?
Yeah.
In the end, I
Yeah.
mean, it's gonna be the person who just used that one.
Mm-hmm.
And you go ahead and play everything. You're not going to be very good at anything, any one of those characters. And this character is always going to be stronger because you know it back inside and out.
Right.
So you have to start with smaller chunks. Just look at it as I'm going to get better at this, and then, the best thing, of course, is to have hopefully you can be part of a community that can give you some feedback.
Right.
That is, to me, quite crucial. But it's all attainable, and it's all from just practice.
Right.
It's not some magical God-given skill.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, some people easier. I'm not gonna lie. Some people are easier. Like that girl in high school who was in the photography class, easier. But it didn't mean that I couldn't get there. And I think when you get to a professional level, it's like Formula One car drivers. Because I was just watching Formula One, so they're all at this level, right? All the artists, the really good artists, who are like top tier level, working on the best films, they're all here. They're on the same level. There's no one. Even Sid Mead is here. Excuse me. But so Sid Mead's here, but it's just a matter of you like his stuff. Does it vibe with you?
Yeah.
Or does Chris Foss, does that vibe with you more? Like who? They're all the same level, right? They can all do the same thing. They can all design and solve problems.
Right.
Then it becomes just subjective.
Right.
Right? Some people might like your stuff because of the way you show it, right? And some people might like the other guy's stuff because they vibe with that. It's art after all, right? So I just think I just want to debunk the fact that everybody thinks, well, like you said, I can't do that. Talent, man. I mean, I can only be this mid-level artist. I honestly don't believe that.
Yeah.
But you have to love it.
Yeah. Without that passion, you're not gonna get far, right? Because there's gonna be very hard times ahead of you, and many road bumps, and that you need that passion to carry you through and continue to practice. Now, let's dial a bit back and let's talk a bit about what maybe people consider as talent and maybe how it applies to what we're doing in concept design. So, I mean, what would you consider like a special aptitude in concept design? Is it the visualizing part, the visual library that you have in your head, the imagination part, the application part? I mean, what I want to drill down with that is that I think there is, I mean, maybe we shouldn't call it talent, but there are people who are, I think, better at visualizing certain things and how they apply their knowledge and the kind of ideas they have, right? And I kind of want to drill down a little bit of where that potentially could come from if it's not born, right? So I mean,
I don't know. Do you have a specific example?
Yeah. So I'm just gonna for me, I think after I read some articles about that, I think there is still such a thing as I don't know what you're going to call it, genetics or talent or something that not gives you the edge, but makes it maybe seem a bit more effortless or makes it seem more unique, whatever you're going to come up with. So I think when it comes to concept design, I think the visual library and the kind of things you were exposed to before, and maybe to a certain degree genetics do play a role. So I think there's two different things here, because it's the age-old debate between what you're born with and are you just a product of your genes, or are you a product of the environment that you grew up in, right? It's an age-old discussion. So I think for us here, it's twofold in a sense that yes, there is genetics to a certain degree, and I think you mentioned it before that it's certain character traits that you're born with. I mean, I'm looking at my kids right now, and I can see that they have certain characteristics from either myself or my wife that are just impossible to have been like something they have seen us do, because we have never done that. But it's so uniquely us, we think, that we do say that, oh my gosh, like how is it possible that my daughter or my son is doing that? They have never seen us do that, and they still have that characteristic. So within those characteristics, there can be certain factors that will make you more, I think, in the end, creative, or that you have better memory for visual things and all these kind of stuff. So there's a certain factor, and I think and like you said, some people, like that girl in your high school, will be able to briefly tap into that, but without the deliberate practice, they will not be able to develop it further. And there will be people who recognize that talent, not talent, sorry, I'm talking to talent here, that they recognize this particular thing they're doing well automatically, and further that in their studies and incorporate it. And then it looks like they are the real, like, standout artist in our case, right? And I guess against those people that have that innate quality, innate characteristic, and that further it with deliberate practice, I think those are, in a sense, I mean, not unbeatable, but they will be the person who reaches that upper level where everybody else is, I think, just faster, like you said, right? It's not unattainable, but it's just going to be there a lot faster, and it will look to the person that looks from the outside, it will look more effortless. They will make certain jumps just quicker. And it
is more effortless.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I wanted to think out loud here is that about people that seem to have a very distinct visual library. And I think that's basically the term we use to kind of all the pictures, all the ideas you have in your head, and the kind of things you can pick up on and combine with whatever you find on the internet or whatever, to come up with more unique, or at least to the observer, more unique shapes. And I think that comes down to a mixture of what you have been exposed to. Like if you maybe played a lot of Lego as a kid, if your parents would take you to a lot of museums, if your parents would take you to a lot of travel, to a lot of exotic locations to see different cultures, different architecture, and even down to parents being able to spend more time with their kids, reading them more interesting books. I mean, honestly, I do feel that kids who grow up with very artistic parents, where the parents are artists or architects, and they are maybe not genetically more likely to be successful as an artist, but I think just purely because of what they are exposed to at home, where they live, the kind of furniture they have, the kind of coffee table books that their parents have, will just expose them and build their visual library a lot earlier. And I mean, with all of that, I do think there is a certain amount of privilege that plays a role. If your parents are struggling to pay the bills and they just don't have the time to indulge in all of these things, because honestly, going to a museum is I think it's crucial, but it's also a sign of being like well off enough to have the time to go there, be interested in it, appreciate the art, right? So I think that factors into it a lot. So I mean, I don't know if you want to call it talent, but there are some things that will set you up more easily for that success if you're willing to work hard in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I think talent. I mean, talent is real. I mean, there's a thing called talent. It like you said, it's just it helps you get there faster if you harness it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? If you harness it. And genetics, uh, I think that we're born and we're born with certain qualities. Everybody has some qualities they can do better and some don't. And a lot of it is being brought out by your environment,
Yeah,
about your parents. And
exactly.
in this book, Bounce, and I may butcher this, but because I read it a long time
Yeah.
ago, but I do remember this part where this guy uh, wanted to, he taught his girl. He had three girls, if I remember right, and he's taught his daughter how to play chess, and this daughter became the like a grandmaster,
Wow.
and then ultimately became a grandmaster. But then he taught the second girl, and she became a
Oh,
grandmaster,
really?
and he taught the third, and the same. So they're all different ages, but he wanted to do this as an experiment.
Jesus, poor girls.
Yeah, but they ended up loving
Yeah,
it.
yeah, that's great.
And he didn't do it in a way where I think it was like a negative thing, but he did this as an experiment, and it happened.
Right.
And you can, like, not everybody is like, because by the nature of like kids, right? You say, wow, this kid is different from that one because they have different personalities and all this. Yes, but a skills can still be taught, and if they learn the right way, they can still do it. But I mean, I'll look it up. Maybe I can get the excerpt from the book and put it down, because I actually think it's really interesting.
Yeah,
And
it
there's a
is.
lot of these kind of things in that book. Even like Mozart, everybody's like, "Oh my God, now there is talent for you, Mozart, right?" But what you don't understand is his dad was a master teacher, and he was teaching Mozart at like 4.
Yeah.
And that by the time, like, so 4 plus 10 years, let's say, in his early teens, he would have had a professional level of, if you going by the 10,000 hours, he already had his 10,000 hours by his early teens.
Yeah.
You have to understand, and having the right teacher, like your dad, basically, showing you every day. Like, it's like when you're showing somebody how to do something specific and that thing really well, how to, you're not going to tell them to do all the things you don't need to do. You're just
Right.
going to tell them the things you need to. And with a professional master teacher as your teacher every day, you're going to get there quick. I'm not saying that he has he's not talented, but honestly, anybody in that situation in the end is going to know music backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
Now, it's just a matter of whether you like what he's
Yeah, yeah,
producing.
yeah. What you like is
Right?
the passion, right? I mean, maybe it comes even down to some of the physical abilities of I don't know, your dexterity and if you have longer fingers, I don't know, right? It's, I mean, not again, not
Yeah, but how
saying
many
that.
times have we heard a person who had one less
Yeah,
finger,
yeah, yeah,
but played it just as beautifully? I
yeah,
mean, and the truth of it is, um, I really feel like, and I think what I want most people to get out of this is that, you know, there's nothing you can't do.
that's true. That's it.
Nothing you can't do. You can have all the thinking of genetics and all this kind of stuff, but if you, first of all, you love something, then you have to do it, right?
Right.
No
Yeah.
choice. You have to do it. But if you do it, apply the right way, and you apply the right kind of practice, then you will get there.
Right. Yeah.
You'll get to a certain level, and then it's just a matter of choice. Like, if
Exactly.
someone likes your music better, I mean, that's subjective too, right? I mean, somebody might say, I hate Mozart. I don't think he's talented. Oh, I like heavy metal.
Exactly. I mean, it's
Whatever, right? I mean, everybody has, it's an art. And you're talking about like the visual library, and I think it's just like you said, a lot of people are. I say in particular, concept art is about a big part of concept art is about curiosity. It's about
right.
curious about how things work
Right.
and how cultures work, because that's the only way you can really bring out a lot of these things into your work so that it's not looks super one-dimensional, right?
Right.
But building that visual library, it's a combination of things. It's a combination of your personality, whether you like how you store visual things and whether you are a visual person.
Exactly.
But if you're not, you're probably not going to be a concept artist. So, I mean, I think it's just a lot of things that you pick up when you're younger. But I mean, when I look at when I was younger, like before my high school days, I wouldn't say that I mean, if anybody had to peg me for doing something, it would be sports. Because I was exceptionally talented at sports. And what I mean by that was I could just get it. I could learn a skill quickly, but I was lazy.
Oh yeah. I mean, nothing.
I got to a certain point and then I just stopped because I was like,
nothing is deliberate, right? I mean, I remember like, it's funny that you mentioned sports. So thinking back on my high school days, I really like, there were these things of like, I was not effortlessly like good at art. I can't say that. That would be a lie. But I mean, compared to all the other subjects I had, I was terrible in math. I was terrible in literature and all these other things like geography. I mean, this is terrible. I had no interest in history or anything. The only things I was good at without putting any effort in whatsoever was art class. I mean, good means like I got a B instead of a D, right? And sports class, like, I was not good at sports. Like I didn't want to put the effort in to learn strategy to be particularly good at or to get the whatever you call it, to be really good at basketball or soccer. Like I didn't like that kind of stuff. Like I didn't want to put the effort into to figure out how to play in a team and all these kind of things. But I was effortlessly good at track and field. Like I didn't have to train. I didn't have to do anything. I would always be the fastest kid throughout my entire school years. I would be going to like the regional finals and whatever, and I would win there as well. I wasn't at a level where I would just be okay, this guy is a potential Olympian. Like no way, right? And but I was just effortlessly the first. But that also meant like I wouldn't put zero effort into it. Like I wouldn't be like, okay, I'm the fastest. Like now I need to get even faster. Like I need to go below 10 seconds.
Yeah, it's like the person who's like effortlessly sort of, they know they're talented and they're willing to work really hard.
But I had no passion for it, right?
So and I think you just need, in the end, you need a passion. I don't want people to say, well, I'm passionate, but I'm not talented.
Right.
I don't buy that because, I don't consider myself talented at all.
Right.
But what I do think is that it took me, I mean, my career spanned over 20 years. I'm here now. And I can still say I have a lot more to go.
Right.
But I can illustrate what's in my head now.
Right.
So, okay. Now it's about who I am as a person. Talent, no talent, doesn't matter.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, it took me this amount of time. I got the skills I needed, right? And then, now I'm just doing art and trying to show me as a person, and hopefully people will like it. It's like writing your own music, and hopefully people like it.
Yeah, exactly. And some will, some won't, right?
And some people would be like, oh, that's crap. And some people would love it. And it's how the world is. I mean, unless you're doing, again, if you're doing something finite like science, math, okay, it's either right or it's wrong. No real middle ground, right? 2 + 2 = 4. I mean,
some might disagree with you.
And if you do, great. But I mean, all I can say is that ultimately, forget talent, forget you don't have it or you have it. Just go for what you love to do. Find the most efficient way to learn it. And like I said in all our episodes, the most efficient way is to get help.
Right.
Like I didn't stumble across this 10,000 hours and how to learn and all this stuff by myself. My coach said, read this.
Yeah.
And without someone to help you, it's really difficult. And I think a lot of people don't put enough importance, and they go, oh, yeah, you can be self-taught. And absolutely you can be. But you know what, with self-taught, a lot of times you're going to run into a lot of big hurdles.
Yeah.
And when you run into those hurdles, you're going to sometimes you're going to want to quit.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I think it's worth the investment of saying, getting opinions, what's the best, most straightforward way to go about doing what you need to do. And if you need to know you improve on something, to be laser focused on the thing you need to do.
Yeah. Perfect.
And not try to do 10 million things. But, talent.
Yeah, I mean, like I said in the beginning, right? When people say to somebody else you're talented, it's often enough it's just a cop out. It's an excuse not to try hard, because
they just it's unattainable. I can't get there.
Right.
And I'm saying to you now, there's no more cop out.
Exactly.
You can get there. Are you willing to take out the effort and time to get there? And part of that time might be reading these books and saying, okay, what's that all about?
Yeah.
And believing in yourself. Because the truth is, a lot of people don't even know these things exist. Everybody knows about the 10,000 hours, but they don't realize that, well, what about the 10,000 hours? What is this about exactly? Not just 10,000 hours, whatever.
And it's not the end, right? I would always say that 10,000 hours is just the beginning, right? That's the first step, and then
it gets you to a professional level.
And then the 10,001st hour is really what counts, and whatever comes after it, the 90,000 hours that come after it, or however many you manage to rack up. So
I mean, all these like great artists, like I love Renaissance artists, or and Leonardo is one of my favorites. But I mean, every one of them, Raphael, Michelangelo, they're all learning until the end of their life.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they lived a long life, so it's not like, okay, 10 years I'm good.
Then it's like finished.
I mean, and don't forget, 10 years or 10,000 hours, we're not talking 10,000 hours and that encompasses everything in the field. I'm just talking like, hey, you want to really get a hang of anatomy and drawing the anatomy and painting the anatomy and doing all that, that's going to take its own set of time.
Right.
Oh, you want to do environments? That's its own set of time. It doesn't mean that you're going to learn everything.
Yeah, that's true. That's
so it's going to take time.
Yeah. And people shouldn't get too hung up on 10 years or 10,000 hours or whatever, right? Because while you're on this journey, you will completely lose track of it, and you will follow your own path. And I hope
just
that
look at your own progress.
People, I hope people don't.
I mean, Go ahead.
No, so I just wanted to say that I hope people don't see like, okay, after 5,000 hours, I'm not even halfway there. I should better stop, right? That's really not the lesson to be learned here.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. And honestly, everybody has a different speed.
Yeah.
But and this number is really just sort of a general guide, I think.
Yeah.
In the end, that's why I think I'm really pro having people, mentors and people on your side to say, hey, try this, try that, and this doesn't have to be a costly sort of thing.
No.
But I think that having some of this really helps, because you can have that person really look at you and say, hey, I think you really need work here.
Right.
Maybe you should spend X amount of time doing this. And this reminds me, and I think I said this, I talked to one of my friends, and he said, I gave a feedback on a portfolio, and I said to them, work on this. And that person, said, should I email you my my progress and all that? And he said, no, don't email me your progress. Check back with me in half a year. And so half a year later, she writes back and says, here's my progress. And it's like a big jump. But she only worked on that one thing, on those things that he had suggested.
Right.
And another half a year later, she was already working.
Right.
So,
right.
What's that saying is that you don't need a lot of check-ins with a lot of people, but what you need is, if they tell you something, to do that.
Right.
To really laser focus and deliberate practice that thing. I guarantee you're gonna kick ass.
Yeah, that's true.
And don't worry about talent.
Yeah.
At that point, forget talent. Just know your passion. You love drawing, right? You have to draw, right? So, but draw the right way so you can learn the right way so that you can draw what you want to draw. Forget talent. In the end, you think, oh, talent is no. Oh, just stop spending the time thinking all about that. Put the energy into doing your practice today. I'm all about that.
Right.
So But I'm also not saying there's no talent. I'm just saying sometimes we focus too much on it.
Yeah, that's true. So I mean, it is what it is.
Or the lack of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Some people will be better at a certain thing than others, but again, like, never use it as an excuse not to try, right? That's the bottom line of this all, because both people will be able to get there. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, no, what gave me hope was that there is no one who's going to be more talented than me, and I was never going to be more talented than anybody else.
Right.
That's how I thought, because in the end, that means that we're all on a level playing field. It's just, you want it, work for it, learn it.
Right.
And then in the end, when you all get to the same level, then it's kind of, then you guys can, in table tennis, right? We're all at the same level. Then it's just a matter of saying, okay, how do I use my skill now? And then now it's kind of a little bit more of taking all the stuff you grew up with, right? The logical thinking, the cognitive thinking, and the strategy and all that kind of stuff. Now is a whole different ball of wax.
Right.
We all have the skills. We're gonna all hit the same backhands, the same forehands. We all have the same power. But now it's just a matter of how we choose to strategize. But we all can already call up all the skill. So, and it's exactly like art, because you all get to this level, top level. You can all draw the figure and draw the environment and all that stuff. But what are you going to draw? That's the key.
Right.
What? And whatever you do is going to be an extension of you. If you can tap into that, it's going to be great.
Right.
That's simple.
Good point.
At least to me.
No, that sounds great. I think that's fantastic. Fantastic advice. And I hope this really helped to at least clarify our point of view, right? Maybe you have a different point of view, right? So I think it's a good way to wrap up. So if you have a different point of view to this, please let us know in the comments. And as usual, feel free to suggest new topics that you want to hear about. We're always happy to. We read everything. We're happy to discuss. And if you enjoyed this, please like, comment, and subscribe. And of course, you'll find us on not only YouTube, but also on all the other podcast networks in an audio form on Spotify, Apple, Google, and all the other ones as well. So thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.